Alright, let's see. What's the episode this week? Special Patreon request by Jacob Wilson. Nice! He's a really stellar guy. Alright, what did he pick? Oh, this calls for something way more 90s. Let me just get my hacky sack and my skateboard here. Dude, it's study time here at Golden Boy Podcast, where the lessons are intense and the real world only exists in your mind, man. But what are those lessons? Well, first of all is that the following audio experience is going to feature language and topics only for the mature dudes and dudettes. A lot of sexy babes and free-loving guys, so make sure you're on the older side before proceeding further. The second lesson, this is a totally spoiler-filled zone that keeps nothing off limits. These dudes are bound to go off on a tangent and talk about anything in totally spoilerific detail. Whether it's Golden Boy or any other radical cartoon being discussed, don't say we didn't warn you if you haven't seen it yet. The third lesson, everyone here is a free and liberated soul that doesn't need to be chained down in thought or recording. So anything said here doesn't necessarily reflect the podcast or whatever place helps these guys make rent, doesn't reflect that as a whole. And last lesson, or first, time doesn't even exist, man. The final lesson is to always be true to where life takes you. Don't just work for the money, find the thing that makes you happy, and live a life worth riding your bike off a cliff for. Live no regrets, man. Now that is truly educational. Oh, gosh. Happy holidays, one and all, and welcome to the Dub Talk Podcast, where we take a look at the best and worst in English dubs that have ever been created. Yes, we like to put on our VHS tapes, pull out our antique hand-painted cells, and watch some vintage animation with only the finest animation dubbing that we could get in 1996. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to warn you ahead of time that if that disclaimer that you listened to was not a fair warning, this is not an episode for children. No, this is one for only the manliest of men and the perviest of students. So if you wandered into a episode with this title and didn't know that ahead of time, be forewarned. We cleared out the audio. Alright, we cleared the kids out of the pool. Excellent. This is Adult Swim time, ladies and gentlemen. Everyone say hi to the audience!
Hi.
Hi there.
You see, I got my enthusiastic crew here. Ladies and gentlemen, I have assembled the finest gentlemen who are ready to study our hearts out for a one-of-a-kind performance from a one-of-a-kind kind of show. To my right, please say hello to Abandul.
Hi, folks. You're in for a ride.
Yes, you are, on this little BMO baby. I actually don't know what that's a reference to. I don't know if BMO is a name, like a company name for motorcycles, like a Ducati.
I'm assuming it's a brand or a slight variation on an actual brand.
It might be like a knockoff to get around copyrights or something like that.
It's a Wick Donald's of some actual motorcycle company.
The McDonald's, yes.
Yes, the Wick Donald's of motorcycles.
Yeah.
And that other testosterone-fueled voice that you heard is the one and only Spaceman Hardy. Say hello, man.
Have you tried this water fountain here in the bathroom? This is great.
No.
I mean, it just shoots the stream out of the toilet. It's perfect.
And the best part is, it's got like those little free mints as well. Those little pink spongy ones.
Oh, yeah, those are great.
Classy performance tonight. So, I want to ask a question to everyone listening out there. Do you remember the 90s? Do you remember... Do you remember cathode ray televisions? Do you remember hand-painted cell animation? And most importantly, do you remember women that actually have the anatomy of women in your Japanese animation?
Let me respond to that by saying, dude, the 90s were rad. Because poor literacy is cool.
Oh my god.
See, you were right in the middle of that, like a little older than me and Amon, because we think 90s, we think like Chuck E. Cheese and the Discovery Zone and the Disney Channel.
No, I'm old enough to remember Pogs. Let that sink in.
We got a T-shirt for you right here. We got
nice... we actually played Pogs the other night, and it was fun.
You know what else is fun? Studying. Traveling the world with no job, studying on a bicycle. Yes, we are here to talk about the Golden Boy OVA. Yep, it's that classic 90s 6-episode OVA by the fine studio at APPP, who years before this gained notoriety for creating the Robot Carnival movie. And, just a couple years later, they decided, animating robots and mechs and all that fun stuff was all well and good. But you know what we really want to do? We want to animate swimming ladies, motorcycle ladies, animation ladies, all the ladies that we can get. And one guy who gets to learn from all of them.
Learn, quotation marks.
Mm-hmm. That's a point for discussion, I'm sure. I want to ask either of you, have either of you two seen this OVA prior to this recording?
Yes, actually. I remember renting it from the anime video store back when it was still open. Yeah, back at the original ADV release, actually.
Yeah,
Two-parter.
I was going to ask about that. Yeah, because this is available up right now, but originally this was released by ADV, and the dub cast is full of ADV regulars.
I had not. I'd seen clips of it, especially on Twitter. This is a great show for Twitter. Very easy to just take a chunk of it out of context and present it to random individuals of the public.
I mean, it's easy enough just to watch that Chihuahua AMV.
But I had not seen it partially because it was always one of those perennial ones that I knew about it because back when I got into anime, the amount of stuff available in English is still small enough. You kind of learned about anything that was of some note, but I never got around to watching it in any capacity.
I gotcha. So I'm glad that we got you to watch this. And we have one person to thank for that, because this is not just a very special episode because it's Golden Boy. This is a special Patreon request episode. Yes, the fine folks at our Patreon get entered into a monthly raffle, and one lucky winner each month gets to have their choice featured as a Dub Talk episode. And this time it is... Jacob Wilson! Woohoo!
Yay.
Hi, Jacob. And I gotta say, directly to Jacob out there, he could have chosen anything in the world. He could have picked anything with an English dub that was readily available for us to talk about, and he zeroed in on this little number here. That is a man who knows his cartoon, so I salute you, sir.
Yes, I see you are a man of culture as well.
I see you are a man of culture as well. Man of culture and fine dubs, which is what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about the ancient English dub for this and see, does it still hold up? Does it not? Spoilers, maybe it doesn't. Maybe we shouldn't prolong that discussion. But before I do talk about that, let me give just a quick synopsis of what the show is about. It's a pretty episodic series. It stars a recent college grad named Kentaro Oe. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. He didn't technically graduate. He finished all the course requirements, but left university just short of actually receiving his diploma. And what's he doing with his free time now? He is traveling the world to Japan. He is traveling from city to city, taking up any random job that he can, usually ones that catch his fancy because there's a hot woman in the subplot. And throughout the whole series, he basically proves himself smarter than he first comes off, because he is a pervy individual. All the women see through that, but by the end of the episode, because he has either saved the ramen shop, or outrun a person on a motorcycle, or revealed a conspiracy, or fixed their computers, or what have you, all the women fall for him.
It's like Then Came Bronson if Then Came Bronson was stupid and horny.
I've never heard that comparison before, but yeah, I think you're right. That is kind of what it is.
I'm shocked you've heard of Then Came Bronson, a show I only know of from other people referring to it.
That's kind of where I know it from as well. Honestly, the show I was going to compare it to wasn't even my own comparison. I have a buddy named MC Bigman on Twitter who, when I told him I was watching this, he said, it's like Kino's Journey if Kino's Journey was horny.
It's not wrong.
No, I was mad because I can't dispute you because you're wrong and I hate you for that.
Yeah, well, if only Kentaro's bike spoke back to him.
Oh, the stories that it could tell.
Oh, the things it would. I speaking of his bike, I do want to talk. I do want to briefly mention one of my. I'm not sure it's. I'm amused by the fact that, judging by the opening, this appears to be like a Ramana clef about some dude who's trying to be a professional cyclist.
It has that vibe, doesn't it?
If you show this to me without any context, I would assume this is some sort of proto Yashua pedal like sports anime, not about what it's actually about, which I find amusing for some reason.
Bit of a bait and switch there.
A little bit.
So yeah, so we took a look at the English dub for this, and boy, have we got words to say about it. So let's jump right into that, shall we? So the origins of this dub is from ADV. Back in their early days, we're talking the mid-90s here. This is a very early production from theirs. And because of that, we have to talk about the ADR director and scriptwriter, who are one in the same. Yes, the ADR director for Golden Boy's dub is Matt Greenfield. Now, have you heard Matt Greenfield before? If you're on the older side, like some of us are, and you've paid attention to dubs done by ADV, or even Sentai Filmworks, because he's still working for them, then you've definitely heard his work before. If you've seen any of the Dirty Pair Flash OVAs, he was the director on that. If you've seen, I'm trying to say like the most popular things around here.
He did work on Gunsmith Cats, I know.
He did. You're right. He was an ADR director on that. Another OVA that ADV put out. But he's still doing stuff into the present day too. Like if you've seen Den-O Coil, which was only dubbed a couple of years ago, even though the show came out a while ago, he was the ADR director on that. So so he's been in the game for quite a while. Unfortunately, ANN doesn't list credits chronologically, so I can't tell how early in his career this was exactly, but it's definitely near the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So, Hardy, what exactly do you take away from, over 20-year dub at this point?
Well, here's the thing about early 90s ADV dubs is that when you go back and listen to them, they tend to sound very hokey. But in all honesty, a lot of times that just adds to their charm. Would I listen to this dub today and say that it's well directed? Probably not, not compared to today's standards. But it is a product of its time, because you can definitely tell there are a lot of slang from the 90s, like, how about them apples?
Yes. And let me tell you, he got a good handful of those apples.
Oh, yeah. No, I think it is a time capsule of its time, and the script writing and directing is definitely 90s enough. But I think for a product of its time, it's certainly eye-catching, I'd have to say, if nothing else.
Oh yes.
Yeah. I mean, I can't really fault it because this was technically pre-Bebop. I know people tend to focus on Bebop as being the changing point as far as dubs are concerned, and so this had its. It has its fun with itself, but
Whackity. See, the thing about the whole Cowboy Bebop comparison is that, like, Cowboy Bebop's dub had very serious material to work with. This show is not serious. This show is not the kind of thing where I feel like you could give it the Bebop treatment. Even if you listen to the original Japanese, the characters are directed to be... Well, the main character is goofy and silly, and the other characters are melodramatic. So I don't think that that kind of, like, serious dubbing of, like, normal-sounding people would really work. It needed this kind of cartoonish direction.
Yeah, and when you compare it to other ADV dubs at this point, because at this point they really hadn't done anything serious. Like they really, their first big major serious production had to have been Evangelion, and this I believe predates it. I don't want to lie and say it doesn't.
Okay, so the OVAs in Japan came out in late 1995 and into middle of 1996.
So they would have had to. So the English side would have had to have had the dub done probably like a year or so after that. Whereas Evangelion came out in 1995, but I don't think they were starting to dub it until probably around this time. So
right,
from what I can tell, yeah,
and they made a lot of changes back and forth to the Evangelion dub as they were releasing it too. That's why you have like the standard dub and then the like premium edition or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it is a product of its time, but I think it's enjoyable. Do I think that they could get away with it in this day and age? No. It'd be labeled another Ghost Stories, which that is a different discussion for another time.
Well, I was going to ask about that because, like, the show, like, the modern show that came to mind when I was listening to this dub was actually Chio School Road, which both of you have seen, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Mm-hmm. No.
Oh, okay. Well, add that to Amon's to-watch list because
Yay, every goddamn episode.
Yay!
Can't fucking talk to you people.
That's all we keep you around for, is just to add to your to-watch list.
I have box sets to listen to, sir.
You can do both. You can listen to one thing and watch another thing.
But continue.
Well, no, I was going to ask, so what do you think, Amon?
How do I put this? I have I think I appreciate about talking about this now. As I feel like we're at the point where dubs from the 90s and kind of that early ADV style where, you know, ADV, I think maybe not so much at the time, but you go a few years down the road, I think you see a difference between them and say how Funimation directs it, where I feel like ADV was always a little more wild and loose. You always could tell that they were a little less corporate, like even in their early days, for lack of a better word. And I think that we're now at the point where I think that can be seen as sort of charming and retro rather than dated. And I think this I think is a kind of a good example of that. It's also kind of a fun throwback to when like Japanese companies did not care nearly as much about how their stuff was being adapted abroad. And
oh no, they did not.
Like I don't, compared to some things, I don't think this goes too far away from what the original source material is probably doing. But there's definitely a looseness that if for say this never got dubbed originally, Discotheque or somebody picks this up and it's like short and high profile enough that it's like, okay, we can spend money on a dub and that won't be a money losing proposition. I don't think it would quite be like this for, it would not have this particular script.
I don't know what you like. I like what kind of modern, or I'm not sorry, what kind of like older OVA that hasn't already been dubbed yet would need this kind of style to it?
I suspect like other like sort of like goofy straight to video shit probably, like
right.
Like that's the other thing that stands out by this is just watching. It's like, yeah, this did not have to deal with TV censors.
Oh God, no.
It's always fun. That's like, oh yeah, OVA was like that used to mean something. that had a very specific definition for what that was supposed to indicate. But like this dub is very kind of like loose and kind of ramshackle in certain ways. There are lots of parts of this that I would not necessarily describe as like, good, quote unquote good like directing and acting for, something maybe a little more serious. But I also think that doesn't matter because Golden Boy is such a like stupid goofy lark on purpose anyways, that it's like, no, this is the dub I want for this kind of show. I like that it's a little, you can kind of see all the rough edges, and, I wouldn't call it like a really professional fan dub. I think they're taking it more serious than that. They are more professional than that, but like, the early ADV dubs, I feel like you can always tell it's like, no, this is a bunch of nerds who were able to get like an actual company together and dub stuff. And I always feel like that's kind of the hallmark of like ADV dubs in my mind, is like, you can really tell like these were a bunch of dorks who got lucky. I mean that in a very like sincere, loving way, but that's very much how, like, the older I get and the more I like see of old ADV stuff, it's like very much like, yeah.
See, I heard people make the argument that dubs should be as close to the original as possible. Maybe not in like the way the characters sound, but more like the line should be about the same, the tone should stay consistent. And for something like this that they definitely had more fun with in the dub, my mentality is, well, if you don't like this goofier, almost riff tracksy kind of take on the material, you can just switch over to the Japanese. Like, it's right there on the disc or in the home or on the streaming service.
Yeah, but what you're going to have then is a lot of jokes that don't really that are lost in translation because they're so Japanese.
Yeah,
Were they really?
I don't know. I didn't watch Golden Boy in Japanese because I'm stupid and I don't like to read.
Well, that's fair.
Yeah.
I have the home video release, so I actually watched the dub while playing the subtitles for the Japanese at the same time. And there's a lot of euphemisms that were added to the English. It doesn't really change the meaning or the context for any of the line changes, but they do pepper it up with English colloquialisms that make it funnier if you're okay with that kind of comedy.
I'm general the rule of, like, you know, I like dubs to be relatively accurate, but it tends to be like, are you making a really silly comedy? I'm not going to get too upset if you, like, punch up appropriately, because it's already a silly comedy.
It's like if you're watching something like Dime a Dollar. As long as you can make people laugh, I don't really care if it's true to the source material. If it's something that's serious and dramatic, then yeah, I want as close of an accurate translation as possible. But I also know that comedy is very subjective, and that what the Japanese are going to find funny, we are not necessarily even going to understand. So, you know, the goal is to make someone laugh. If you can make me laugh, that's fine.
There wasn't too much of that, as far as I can tell, in the sub. I don't really think there's any jokes in the original that wouldn't translate well.
I think it's mainly because it's just everything's about. It's all like one note. It's all about, you know, being horny and stuff.
And that's universal. Everyone across the world, from Antarctica to India, from Greenland to Greece, everyone can embrace the horniness. Except North Dakota. Ouch.
We don't talk about North Dakota.
I literally read something today that agrees with you. As noted by none other than Roger Ebert himself, because, as you may not know, Roger Ebert was a lifelong fan of a director named Russ Meyer, who, Russ Meyer liked two things in life: making kind of weird, sort of satirical movies about America, and ladies with big breasts.
Okay.
Just very much in love with that. And he and Roger Ebert were, like, good friends, and Roger Ebert actually wrote, like, maybe his most famous movie. But anyways, he once said it's like, sex is a great vehicle for stuff like satire, because, like, everyone gets that. It's a basic human need. It's a really good vehicle for that kind of stuff.
Vehicle.
Vroom, vroom.
If there is one, if there's, like, one core Japanese thing that is probably lost on us Westerners, and this isn't a fault of the dub, it's just the setting. You guys are familiar with, like, how harsh and critical Japanese schooling can be, and especially more in the 90s, right?
Right.
Broadly, yeah.
Yeah, it had a reputation for being kind of militant. So to have a story about a character who wants to learn, but in an unconventional kind of way, is kind of bucking the system a little bit. Like, that's supposed to be a more subversive, and that's something that we don't get here. But I think we can all still relate to the guy who wants to live life to the fullest and not be, nailed down to a corporate job. Doesn't want to be a salaryman. And the last thing I wanted to mention on the dub is that, and this is, again, something that you probably don't pick up on if you didn't watch the Japanese, was they fill almost every silent part with kind of a gag of some kind. I want to pick up my favorite one here. In episode 2, where Kentaro's head is twisted around backwards, and he's walking, he's looking backwards, he makes an amazing little comment in the dub, and he says, "I really do have a cute butt." Yeah, so it sounds like anyone who's going into this dub needs to know what kind of context they're going into. It's not going to be like a modern dub. It's going to be a little gaggy, and it's going to be filled with all your favorite, not great dub voices, but it's a good time capsule for the time period.
And very, very, very unquestionably, unapologetically horny.
Yes, This is the kind of thing where, like, it's not necessarily technically good, but boy, does it have a lot of personality.
That's a good word to describe it. You know who else has a lot of personality? The very first woman that we run across. Because in every episode, we meet a different main girl. And we're going to talk about them one by one and use that to describe each of the episodes we go through. We're going to start with the very first episode, the premiere episode, which is called Computer Software. And... well, let's just say that the software isn't the only thing that's soft, so are the big breasts of Madam President.
Heyo!
Look at that character design, people. I don't even know if we can show this on screen. Like, is there an image of her that doesn't have the nipples showing through the very thin red outfit at all?
I guess there's that brief bit towards the end of the episode where she's wearing, like, an actual business suit.
There you go. That's all we can show you. But for the rest of the episodes, it's wobble, 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 strap over.
There are absolutely people on the internet who only know Golden Boy from seeing images, like tweets about like anime '90s ladies just hit different, and it's just like 4 ladies from Golden Boy.
That's pretty much it.
One of whom is going to be Madam President because
that body.
I'm sure there are people who think she's the main character because I sure as shit see people talk about her way more than Kentaro.
That they do.
So tell us about Madam President.
So the great thing about Madam President, not only is she the president of a computer software company that Kentaro starts working at, but she also has a legendary English voice actress, and that could be none other than the one and only Tiffany Grant. Now, Hardy, you mentioned Gunsmith Cats earlier.
Right.
Is Tiffany Grant in the Gunsmith Cats OVA?
That she is. She is sort of the unofficial third Gunsmith Cat. She is Becky Farah.
She is.
She's the informant. Also, what else Tiffany Grant has played?
She plays every animal in every dub that Sentai has done. Like, if you watch Flip Flappers or Kaleido Star or anything that's got an animal in it, she is going to voice that animal in it. Like, I'm sure that's what you were getting at, right?
Well, no, I seem to remember a certain feisty redhead.
Yes.
It was, yes, Yoko in the original Gurren Lagann dub from ADV.
Right. ADV had first hand on that. Matt Greenfield was the ADR director on that. And if you can get a copy of that original ADV dub, hold on to that because it's a precious, precious commodity now.
You'll probably have to steal it out of Mike Toole's vault.
Yes, you will.
He's got it under glass.
But let's not kid ourselves here. Amon, tell us who the basic people in the audience are gonna know Tiffany Grant from, first and foremost.
She's Asuka in Evangelion.
Yeah, speaking of 90s anime, she was the original Fräulein in the original ADV dub of Evangelion. It's weird that I have to say the original dub because there's like 10 different dubs now.
Original and most recent too.
That's
thanks to Amazon Prime.
It's so confusing, but yes, thanks to Amazon. Thanks to the I'm sorry, which one? It was the movies that they redubbed, right?
The rebuild movies, I swear they could do. Matt McMuscles could do a What Happened episode on Evangelion alone, and it'd have to be a 2-parter because it would have to involve the Japanese development and the English licensing.
That to be continued. But bringing it back to this particular episode, so Tiffany's portrayal of Madam President is the first indication we get about what the women in the show are going to be like, and she has to balance some idiot unplugged her router and lost all of their work. So, Amon, how does she balance those two sides of her? You're just thinking about wobble, 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 aren't you?
I'm trying to think of how to... Tiffany Grant understood the assignment. This lady is preposterously hot. and while dealing with Kentaro, she has 3 modes. Mild contempt. Well, she has attraction later, but sort of her standard bearing, which she cannot help but be smoldering because look at her. And blind rage and fury. All of which I think Tiffany do a very good job on. She sells this woman as both, like, the hottest woman who has ever existed and someone who, like, cannot fucking believe this asshole just ruined her company.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. And I like that Tiffany gets to play all those parts there. Some of the characters we're going to talk about kind of default to one personality trait throughout the show, but this particular character has a lot more layers, I think, a lot more flavors we get to see.
Yeah, she like I feel like she's also the female lead who gets to interact the most with Kentaro.
Out of all the really?
I mean, with like, how do I put this? Like, I feel like she gets to have more range in it. Like, I feel like a lot of the other times there's more interaction, but it tends to be a little more like
one-sided or something.
You know, like you watch like Noriko in episode 3 has a very consistent personality throughout.
Mm-hmm. And doesn't have as much interaction with Kentaro because she's spending all her time with that douchebag.
Yeah, or like you know, Chi in the last episode. Like they're a little more. They tend to have they're more of like a consistent person throughout. So I feel like Madame President gets to be a little more dynamic.
Okay.
This is how I see it: is there's 6 main girls in the show, and between the 6 of them, there are 3 main personality traits, and they all start one after the other: bitchy, horny, sweet.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And
that sounds right. Yeah,
I'm going to assume that you categorize Madame President in the bitchy archetype.
I do, yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I mean,
because the first thing she does is after almost running him over with her yellow Lamborghini Diablo, she bribes him,
pays him off,
and that's basically the end of that until he actually finds out that she's the boss of the company he's been hired for. So,
speaking of which, I want to compliment the dub people on one thing. That scene where she just hands Kentaro a stack of money to, you know, like say, all right, go away. He shouts out, "This is $10,000." Interesting is that it's actually 1,000,000 yen in the original Japanese, but
which basically is converted to around $10,000.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I got to compliment because not all dubs from this time period actually bothered with the whole conversion thing. If they said 1,000,000 yen in the Japanese, they may say $1 million in the dub. But this show actually converts yen to dollars and centimeters to inches in other scenes where we're measuring the women. So I do have to commend them for that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree with these two as well. I guess the only other thing I wanted to mention is, and I'm going to do this for each of the segments, is talk about each of these episodes had a unique director. They had an episode director. This episode, the very first episode, was directed by the overall series director. And Hardy, you've definitely seen his work before because he was the director on the Blood the Last Vampire movie. I know you got positive thoughts about that. Just beating Hardy over the head with a paper bat.
I didn't hate it. It's just got its issues.
That it does.
But I would like to watch it again, but thanks to Aniplex, that's not going to happen anytime soon.
Well, you know what you can watch? The same director also directed the best part of the Robot Carnival movie. He directed the Tale of the Two Robots, the one with the Meiji-era mechas.
I don't even remember that.
You don't remember that?
I was blitz drunk when I watched Robot Carnival. It made it both better and worse.
Oh, you got. I mean, yes, that does sound entertaining, but you got to see it. It's Meiji era. You know, like people.
I'll have to rewatch Robot Carnival again for sure.
Just for the hell of it, watch Robot Carnival again.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, that's Madam President. That's our first episode, and if you can get through that first episode with all the tits bouncing everywhere. And Kentaro wanting to be spit on, and the toilet scene. Oh God!
Yeah, which toilet scene? There's one in every episode.
You will know very soon whether this is or isn't for you.
Can you imagine some poor sap who hasn't watched an anime that's maybe more than like 5 years old, just stumbling upon this on Crunchyroll and just deciding to throw it on?
Oh, or worse, someone going on to like the Anime News Network basic forums and saying, hey, I'm a complete newbie to anime. I've only watched My Hero Academia, but I'm looking for something to expand my horizons. What do you recommend?
Oh, you watch a show about a guy who writes lots of notes and wants to learn a lot? Well, have I got a recommendation for you? Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Don't do that. For the record, don't do that, people. Don't troll the newbies with this. Ease them into something.
And while we're at it, the BNP joke is out of date and you could possibly get someone arrested. Don't do it anymore.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the show makes no bones about being a role model for people. We're just enjoying it precariously.
Mm-hmm.
Just like we are enjoying bribing people to get elected for office. And with that segue, let's move on to the second episode. So, we move from computer software to working for a Japanese campaign for a mayor who's trying to get elected again by bribing the individuals, getting the Yakuza on his side, taking people to titty bars if they get elected. Just all the good, wholesome Japanese political things that you can do.
Gentlemen's Club. Gentlemen's Club.
References never die. But, we're not gonna talk about that politician. We're gonna instead talk about his daughter, Naoko Katsuda, who is the prime character of the second episode. And she, you see her at first and you think like, okay, she's a basic rich girl. But she is twisted. She basically flaunts her sexuality, dressing half naked and getting Kentaro to teach her, for like legitimately for school, while constantly being in various stages of undress, to try to get him in trouble because she gets off on that stuff. I think that she's probably in that category you're talking about, Hardy, of horny as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
You're not wrong. She definitely fits in that circle. But who could possibly voice a character like Naoko? Well, the one and only Alison Keith. Now, Alison is another name that you've heard of before if you've been listening to ADV and Sentai dubs for quite a while. Maybe one of the more things that one of the franchises you probably heard her in is, if you watch the Full Metal Panic series, she plays the character of Melissa Mao in that series. If you want something a little more on the obscure side, well, we could go down the list and look at what was that show called? Oh yes, Rune Soldier. Nobody remembers that?
Yeah, she was the hot ninja girl, the hot thief.
Yes, she was that one. I'm trying to go for like the mix of old and new stuff here.
Yeah. Newer stuff, you probably recognize her as the hot grandma in Suritama.
I didn't see Tsuritama yet, but I'm going to take your word
for it.
Yeah,
it's unfortunately it got claimed by the Aniplex jail, but yeah. She had me sweating to the oldies.
But I was also going to just mention lastly is that she was also in Evangelion, because we're going to reference that show as much as possible in this episode. She was the character of Misato in that show, which I think all of you know that character because, it made everybody want to join the military, basically. You saw Misato running things like a badass and didn't want to sign up for NERV, then you just weren't watching the same show.
She was the third member of the hot purple-haired femme fatale trio. Right up there with Faye Valentine and Motoko Kusanagi.
The 90s was a good time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to just start off by saying that her performance in this is just as dynamic as Madam President, because she's also got to have a bit of a split personality, because she goes from being nice sounding when she's got like her public voice, but then she switches to a very sinister side when she's flaunting her sexuality, and all that's in her head too. She's like monologuing to herself, so Alison doesn't have to match lip flaps. She just gets to cut loose and talk about, you pervert, I can see that you've got a hard on for me. I'm sure you just want to pet these ripe apples, don't you? And it gets really sexual, and men are such perverts, you know?
We really are.
We're not denying it. We're not, we're not above that. But because of that, she definitely gets to have a lot of fun. And it doesn't really deviate too much from the Japanese either. Like, the actual lines are maybe a little more suggestive than the original, but not by much. And she's definitely going 110% for this character who's, flaunting what she got because she knows that since she's a politician's daughter, none of the guys can touch her. They can't do anything without being killed, essentially. And for that, I gotta be honest, that was entertaining to watch.
I think another thing that makes her character so dangerous is, unlike most of the other girls in this show, she actually is jailbait, technically, because she's a high schooler. And so she knows that if Kentaro does actually touch her, then he could actually, like, legitimately go to jail if the Yakuza don't kill him first.
Yeah.
So she kind of uses that to her advantage and sort of just use him as her own personal plaything. But thankfully, Kentaro is the bigger man. Bigger. In the end. And yeah. Kentaro is the bigger man in the end, and he figures out his way. Unlike the other episodes, he doesn't really sort of impress her with his knowledge or anything. He just sort of mans up and takes responsibility, and it sort of makes an impression upon her as she's watching him get beat up, and I'm like, I thought I wanted this, but now that I see it, I really don't. Mm-hmm. And so you can sort of see the shift in perspective from Alison's performance as her temperament changes, and she's like, "No, stop! You're gonna kill him," you know. And then at the very end, she actually realizes she does like Kentaro, and
really likes Kentaro.
She tells him that she wants him to be her first.
She'll wait for him.
Yeah.
Again,
and leaves him with a nice little parting gift too, so that's nice. Nice little, it's a smell good, I'll call it.
See, 16 Candles ruined teen comedies forever. Again, we want to put the disclaimer out there. Yeah, we don't condone of the dating the underage people or anything like that. Yeah. But yes, Amon, what do you think?
I realize Alison's legacy is probably going to be very centered around Masato for obvious reasons that I don't need to explain here. But that rant she gives about how men are disgusting.
Well,
which I like, because you can tell that on the one hand, like, Alison does a very good job of making that feel sincere, but also being like, Naoko is really horny as well. Like, I feel like the appeal for her is, like, I like antagonizing these men, and if one of them does break down and fuck me, I got laid. Not upset about that.
You know, one of the best part about that, Amon, that kind of dime flip between, this is the list of things you want to do to me, and then a condescending, what a typical man. That wasn't in the original Japanese.
I'm not that surprised, just because that feels like a very American, like, comedy punchline.
Yeah, especially for the 90s, it definitely was. It was a very self-aware comedy way of looking at it.
Yeah, definitely. Which I like, because that bit at the end, where it's that makes the speech as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
that's what moves it from good to great.
It really does, and yeah, I like that. Even though she doesn't like suffer any consequences throughout the series, the fact that we get like a heartwarming resolution to her storyline where she decides to stop being a tease to everyone it's like, okay, this is the best we're gonna get for this character.
And she gets to become a professional VA at the end too.
Yeah.
Yes, she does.
Everything works out for the best in Golden Boy world.
You know who doesn't get to be a professional VA, though? In that same episode 2, the lady who is the house cleaner and is giving Kentaro the box of liquor. I can't even mimic it. It's like...
What accent? What is that?
The most obvious man voicing of what, like, hey, give this liquor to the people, and I gotta get it there quickly. We gotta look so good. Team Girl Squad.
You know, Noah, off the record, you know what you just sounded like is that one character from Centaur World mixed with Chomp Chomp Bacon.
Okay, in the Japanese, it is obviously a man voicing a woman, but it's not screechy like that. It's kind of like the background character in Lucky Star. That's, it's a woman, but it's an obvious male voice. But it's not that screechy. So they took a small gag in the Japanese and just cranked it up to 100.
Kind of reminds me of that one time that John Swasey played the grandma in a one-off OVA called The Samurai.
I haven't seen that, but those words that you just put together into a sentence make me want to hunt it down now.
It's very rare. It's like a wannabe Ranma 1/2, but it's like only 30 minutes. But it's one of Dave Matranga's first roles, I believe.
Oh wow, that is old then.
Yeah.
But just like this dub.
Mm-hmm.
So that brings us to the end of episode 2, which was directed original animation direction by Yasuhito Kichikuchi, and that is a guy who, going into the future, he's been around for quite a while actually. As far as series direction, he did stuff like Legend of Black Heaven, but he's still doing series direction now, all the way into The Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. So you're probably still watching his work even into the Digipaint era.
Ooh, nice.
So, moving on to the episode 3. So, okay, you've watched the first 2 episodes. You know what to expect. Let's get a more heartwarming episode. Let's get a story about udon noodles. Let's get a guy learning to cook noodles for a struggling family, the hot daughter, and the sleazeball business guy who wants to take over the building and muscle them out. Let's move on to the noodle shop episode. And starring our main girl, the noodle shop daughter, Noriko. Now, Noriko is just a very nice high school girl. She, unlike the previous 2, she's not bitchy, she's not horny, she's nice. She is just a very nice girl. Too nice, in fact, because there's this guy who says he wants to marry her, but it's all just a ploy.
Hey there, listeners. It's your friendly neighborhood editor, Amon here. Unfortunately, Noah's Audacity ate part of his recording, and by the time we found this out, it was a little too late for him to do a re-recording of the section. But to catch you up to speed, Noriko's a nice lady. She has a dirtbag boyfriend who is trying to take over the building her family's noodle shop is in, and Kentaro, upon learning this, tries to help dissuade her from, wants to protect her a little bit, because he's a stand-up guy despite everything. And she is played by Kim Sevier, and Noah is going to talk a little more about Kim now.
Before, and looking over her list of credits, it's not a whole lot compared to the other 2 that we talked about, but still quite a few things that still stand out. One of them being she was in the Dirty Pair Flash OVA. She played the character of Yuri in that OVA.
Which is a lead.
That is a lead. And again, that's kind of surprised me. It surprised me that she doesn't have more on here. I think the most recent thing on here is the the Fire Emblem OVA. She plays the character of Shida in that. I don't know anything about Fire Emblem, but
that's not recent. That OVA isn't recent at all.
Oh no. Oh
no,
okay.
That goes back to the VHS days. Yeah, Fire Emblem's been around for a long time.
Yeah, I'm a noob in the video game era, I apologize. But let me rectify that with one more role that Kim has done. And yes, we're going to tie it back to Evangelion again. She plays the mom, Yui Ikahari, in that show. Not a whole lot of lines, but very important to the overall show.
Mm-hmm.
Happy Mother's Day.
She's the robot. Sorry, you can edit that part out.
No, it's okay.
I feel like Evangelion is outside the spoiler zone at this point.
Yeah, I was debating, like, do we want to... No, it's a 25-plus year show at this point.
If it can drink in America, it's too old to be spoiled.
It's not our fault if they haven't seen it. And as we've established, there are countless ways to watch the franchise now.
It has been on the most mainstream streaming service in the world for like 2 or 3 straight years at this point. You have no one to blame but you.
I can finally make my joke that got bleeped out of the heavy object episode about Kaoru getting his head blown off. So,
no, we want to highlight that.
Yes.
Screw that guy. But don't screw this character. Don't screw Noriko. So what do you think, Hardy, about we switched to a nicer, more pure character in episode 3?
Honestly, up until this point, we've kind of had a very similar architect with the female actresses in that they tend to start out very taciturn and stoic and just, matter of fact. But then as soon as Kentaro does something stupid, then they wig out and get sort of hyperactive and screaming and stuff. Noriko doesn't do that. She's sweet from the get-go. And with Kim's performance, I honestly say, I think among the 6 girls, hers is one of the better ones. She's more genuine. She is just more upbeat and kind and sweet. And I'm kind of surprised that Kim didn't get more roles in the future, because I think of the 6 Bane, I think her performance was one of the more solid.
I mean, none in the anime voicing sphere. That's the downside of using ANN for credit searching, is like she could have more television work, theater work. That's just not documented where I'm looking.
Right.
Yeah,
No.
I feel like whenever we see like Texas actors who didn't do a lot of anime dubbing, that I feel like we're usually looking at like theater actors who did some voice work on the side.
Mm-hmm.
Which,
yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's even a good resource for trying to keep track of people doing stuff on like Broadway, much less like regional theater in Texas.
Yeah, not unless you're.
It's a shame.
Unless you're a Bette Midler or, I mean, again, that's national. Local theater, I wouldn't even know. Although, I mean, I'm not surprised that some people kind of choose to stay in that theater background. Daniel Radcliffe, of all people, kind of talked about the thrill, the serotonin rush you get of doing a performance every night. And that's what draws a lot of people to that, more so than doing television or voice acting work.
Mm.
And I'm actually going to have to disagree with you a tiny bit, Hardy, about Kim's performance being on the better side, because I do agree that she's very good when she's supposed to be exuberant, and she's definitely, she's as nice as she is hardworking. So in all those scenes, it's very good. The problem is when she gets into the more vulnerable scenes. When she gets, it's like she gets very timid in intimate situations, like the racetrack scene, and then she has to get very sad and cry when she finds out that her boyfriend has been trying to con her. And I don't know, the overall crying scenes just aren't as believable to me. It's like it has to be a very sincere kind of emotional breakdown, and just the way that Kim was directed, it's less believable to me than her more upbeat moments.
Okay.
What do you think, Amon?
I feel like Kim does a good job, and I think is mostly just suffers from the fact that Noriko's a nice girl. But consequently, I think she is not unmemorable, but compared to the more stronger personality characters in like the 2 episodes before this and the 2 episodes after this, like this is like this is the episode that most feels like something that you could get away with on like regular television.
She doesn't have the sort of va-va-voom personality that the previous 2.
Exactly. She's much more of like a sweetheart, and I think Kim I think plays her very well, but just by dint of what the character is, she has less opportunity to show off than Tiffany or Allison or the actresses we're going to talk about during the next couple segments, who I all think kind of get opportunities to be much bigger. And I think Kim feels much more like a normal person, not an anime character. Or that's what she feels like she's playing. Like Noriko feels way more like she feels like she stepped out of one of those kind of like a nice quiet family drama about a struggling noodle shop.
Yeah, more grounded in reality, I guess.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
No, I think she does a good job with it. I think it's just like the demands of the character mean she does not get to be showy in a way that some of the other actresses do.
Yes, but that's good for the scenes where she has to be happy and like a good daughter to her family. It's just I think it suffers a little bit when she has to be on the more emotional side of things. But it doesn't surprise me at all that this episode was written to have a nicer female character that's, I think, a more realistic, a little more like your average Japanese high school girl, considering who the actual director of this episode was. It was directed by a man named Hiroyuki Mirita, and I think nobody listening to this is going to know that name right away, but you've definitely seen a movie he's done before, because a couple years later, he started working for Studio Ghibli and directed The Cat Returns.
Oh, nice.
Speaking of another story with a nice high school girl who gets sucked into unwanted engagement, like this episode.
Haha!
So that's, but I do agree. I do like that they wrote episodes to diversify the female leads that Kentaro gets to interact with. And it shows that he's, like, he doesn't perv on her like any of the other characters because she's not, like, sexually available. So he's a little more reserved with his interactions with her. And I think it's the only episode that doesn't have a toilet scene in it.
I gotta go back and rewatch that. I'm not particularly certain. I think there might have been one snuck in there somewhere. Possibly.
I don't know. I know that they have that interaction about flowers in her room, but he doesn't, it's more chaste than any of the other episodes that we've talked about or are going to talk about. Mm-hmm. Well, I've had my fill of udon. You guys ready to move on? Although I should warn you, you really shouldn't swim 30 minutes after eating. Screw it. Let's jump in the pool. Let's move on to episode 4. I know this is some people's favorite episode.
It's the pool episode.
This is the swimming episode. And what do the Japanese animators love more than hot women on the beach?
Speedos!
A pool episode. And lots of sexy swimsuits. Yeah, we're going to talk about the swimming episode, which is starring a gold medal Olympist who is leading a swimming class at basically like a YMCA style community pool, who, Kentaro just can't help himself. He sees hot women whose nipples he can see straight through the outfit, and he's got to get a job as an instructor there, despite the fact that he sucks at swimming at first. He does challenge her to a race later on in the episode, which leads to a scene that I had to send the children out of the room for, because they're like, "Hey, Dad, I have a question." I was like, "Guys, out, no, guys, in a minute. I fast forward. Don't look at this. No, don't look."
To quote my good friend Beavis,
and that particular swim instructor is a lady named Ayuko Hayami. Now, Ayuko has a very interesting design to her, which means you're going to need a very interesting voice actress. And for this one, we got another actress who hasn't had as much credited voiceover work. In fact, most of her work seems to be from around the same time period of the late 90s, early 2000s. And that is Su Ulu. I think I'm pronouncing it right. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing it, but I believe it's pronounced Ulu. Mm-hmm. And she also, like Kim, doesn't have as many credits to her name. But if you saw Sol Bianca, she played Janny in that. If you saw the Dirty Pair Flash OVA, we're going to bring it back around to that. She played the character of Kai in that episode. In the OVA, not the entire franchise.
Was it K?
Oh, I mispronounced it. Yes, it's K. I'm sorry.
Yeah. That, which is another lead.
Is the other lead, yes.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, just a break topic here. Did either of you guys support the Dirty Pair Kickstarter that was
I've got the whole series. Because I've never owned it in any iteration, so now I can have the entire thing on Blu-ray.
Let's see, I was tempted to do that, so you're a better man than I. Both of you are.
I don't know which lamp I'm going to get. They're going to send it to me on random. I'm hoping for K. So,
fingers crossed. If you're watching this, Anime Go, you know what to send this guy. But of course, the thing that you probably know Sue for more than anything is, and this is going to surprise everyone, another Evangelion role. We were talking.
Gasp! Clutch the pearls.
Yes, clutch and more specifically, clutch the 3-brained robot that controls the entire organization, because she voices Ritsuko in that show. I don't know if Ritsuko is like very many people's favorites when there's so many other females to compare her to, but I think she deserves a little more credit than she gets in the fan sphere.
I think she has a following for everybody who would be into Misato, but find her being a hot mess off-putting instead of appealing.
Between the two of them, it's whether you prefer beer or prefer cigarettes.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it?
Yeah.
There we go.
Or you got those like me who don't prefer either of those, and I don't know, I guess I go in the Yui camp.
You like him 20 stories tall and robotic?
Well, who doesn't? But someone who's not 20 stories and robotic is Ayako in the swimming episode. So Sue's performance here is, I'm going to start off by saying I think it's sultrier than any of the other characters. And it's not like she's trying to be sexual. She's confident is her thing. And that confidence eludes sexiness a lot of the time. So because of that, Sue's performance is very didactic. Like all of her syllables are like very on the beat. You can almost sing to it, and that kind of works to let us know that she's not like easy to get to. It's like there's an allure there that you have to break through. You have to break through her layers of not attracted to your lazy ass, which makes it all the more interesting when she finally does start warming up to Kentaro.
I would have to say that in the vast majority of things, this was probably one of the weaker performances, because it does come across as very much reading from the script, if I had to say that. It's kind of one of the issues that I had with the original Dirty Pair OVAs and movies is, I know she didn't play that version of Kay, but Kay's actress was very much, what are you doing sort of thing. It didn't have all that much life to it. It has her bright spots, especially when she gets bad at Kentaro over drinking her crotch water. Yeah. But
there's a line there.
Yeah. But no, as far as my personal feelings are, it's probably one of the weaker performances for me. That having been said, she is obviously the objectively hottest girl in the show. Don't at me,
Hardy. Now, I'm sorry.
I'm not taking requests at this time.
I was just going to say, does this have something to do with the fact that she's a little darker skin than the other characters?
Of course, that's 100% why that's...
Okay, all right.
What did you expect from me?
I was just checking, like, maybe you have a thing for swimmers, maybe you have a thing for women who wear eyeshadow in the water. But
I mean, she's ripped, she's dark-skinned, she's got short hair. I mean, that's the checklist for me.
They just went into his brain and picked out the best parts.
I love a woman who can bench press me.
Yeah, it is funny that while Madame President is the character who actually steps on Kentaro, Ayuko absolutely has the stronger step on you energy about her.
Oh, that scene where he's fantasizing about her being a dominatrix.
Mm-hmm.
Breasts out and everything.
Straight to video.
Boobies. Yes. 80085.
I love taking the space crew to boobies for a night of drinking.
With the hot waitresses and the not so hot wings.
Full disclaimer, I just finished watching Space Dandy. Anyways. Yeah, Aman, do you think that this was the weakest of the female characters in the show?
I think Ayuko is deliberately written to be the most kind of like cool and calm of the bunch, and I think that makes it easier for Sue. I think that makes it a little easier for some of Sue's performance to come across as a little flat as a consequence. Like, mm-hmm. I think it really shines like in the parts where she is like actively furious at Kentaro.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like there's a little bit of range in there, but I think it's partially just the character requires a certain kind of it's not flat affect, but it's close enough that I think it can kind of dip into there. Plus, like, I enjoy this show too much to think about things in terms of weakest performance. I'm too busy having a nice time.
Okay, that's fair.
But I think the way her character is written, I think it's easier. Yeah, I think it's a little easier for Sue to slide into that because her sort of neutral emotion is kind of, cool boss who's better than you. Rather than like Randy schoolgirl who wants to push your buttons.
Yeah.
For example.
Which we'll get to.
The only thing that kind of stood out to me is that because they're in a pool setting, the engineers put a lot of echo effect on everyone's dialogue. But it stands out the most in scenes where Ayuko and Kentaro are just like talking to each other. And it's kind of like, I don't know if it's the best mixing I've heard before, because it's almost to the point of distracting.
This is one of these shows where I'm curious to know if they were able to adjust anything for the DVD release, because I'm sure there's stuff that probably sounded fine on VHS that didn't necessarily make the leap to DVD all that well. Mm-hmm. But at that point it's like, well, we have like the final mix, but we don't really have the masters anymore, so we can't adjust much of anything. Or there's like no real money in it, frankly.
Possibly.
So yeah, I could see that being kind of like a digital audio did not exist when we released this, so we were not concerned about it sounding nice in that format. I mean, kind of a problem.
It kind of reminds me of what you were talking about before, about how the rough edges on a dub this old kind of give it its charm. Like, no, this would not pass for a current release. Anyone who bought this for Blu-ray money nowadays for a brand new production would not accept this, and this would be, condemned for what it was. But as a product of a time period before we had digital recording techniques, or before ADV wasn't recording next to an airport, yeah, it kind of gives it that charm to it, I guess. It was just kind of it was just a little distracting on that end. I think the only other thing to really mention about this episode is that one thing I didn't mention before is that the individual episode directors were also the storyboard artists for all the episodes that we've talked about. All the episodes in this OVA series, actually. So if you were storyboarding it and directing it as well, so each one kind of has a personal stamp of whoever was the director on that episode, except for this episode, except for episode 4, because the director and the storyboard artist were two different people. Both of them are people who've done like episode direction on stuff before, from everything from Outlaw Star to Hellsing to Excel Saga. But it kind of stands out that this is the episode where the camera dynamics, and especially the swimming scenes, and then the scenes with the children, shows like a wider range, I think, than the other episodes that we saw before it. So maybe that's one of the benefits of splitting up your responsibilities of direction and storyboarding to 2 instead of having it condensed to 1. But that has nothing to do with the dub performances. The dub performance that we're actually going to talk about next is moving into episode 5, which I know for a fact is many people's favorite episode. I'm going to go on a limb and say, Hardy, is episode 5 your favorite episode? Maybe not your favorite character, but favorite episode.
I just enjoy Golden Boy as an experience. I don't try to make favorite episodes, but I'm
gonna twist your arm. I'm gonna twist that arm, and you're gonna tell us the truth.
Probably, yes. All things considered.
And why is it a very good episode?
Because of the complete lack. What is the word? The complete disrespect to physics.
Oh, that's the reason.
Study!
They flat out say, she says, does he think this is a cartoon? Which, yeah, it kind of is. But, so this episode is the motorcycle episode. This is another one where we've got a horny character. Oh god, is she horny. That character is Reiko Terayama, who is the daughter of a very well-to-do family, like the kind of traditional Japanese family who wears yukata indoors, has servants who cater to all their whims, their house is very traditional, and so you'd think that she would be incredibly reserved and polite, which she is in home, but as soon as she gets away, goes to her private little shed, gets on her motorcycle, strips down and starts riding that thing, and that is absolutely as horny as this show gets.
Yeah.
And as you can hear from the audience, there are no complaints about that. None whatsoever.
This is absolutely a section of the show there are some people who have this on tape, and that section's real worn out. Back and forth, back and forth.
Fast forward to 13 minutes and 25 seconds, replay over and over again.
It's just the time code's just written on the label in Sharpie.
You put it on YouTube and the mouse says, most watched scene is this part of the episode. It's interesting they started doing that.
This is very like, there's no internet yet, so you have R-rated movies. And you just make note of what the good bits are.
It's kind of wholesome in a way. Like nowadays, you can just Google boobs and find whatever you want. But back in the day, you need to hunt this stuff down. Just get lucky.
It's quaint, like old softcore porn mags.
Yeah, back in the day, when today you kids just have to wait for their parents to leave their house. Back in the day, they had to wait for their parents to leave the country.
Back when Americans were allowed to do that. But speaking of out of country, Reiko, like we said, has got a very interesting dynamic to her, so we absolutely need to get an interesting voice in here. So we got Laura Chapman to do this voice. Again, another voice that's done a lot of ADV stuff. Seems to have kind of stopped in the time period when ADV switched over to Sentai Filmworks, but there's still quite a handful of performances from that time period you may have heard of before. She was very prominent in Bubblegum Crisis Tokyo 2040 as Cilia Stingray. She is all the way into the most recent thing I could find was she was in the Denocoil dub as Specs Granny, which, my god, the old people in that show are almost as entertaining as the young people in how they interact with technology. But maybe the thing that you may have heard her from, and this is a big maybe because it's kind of a niche show, but it's the thing I know her most from, is she was in the dub for Razafon, not Evangelion, Razafon. She plays the character of Maya Kamina in that show.
And she was also the hot mom in Godanner.
Oh, she was. I saw that credit here, but I had forgotten the names of the characters from that show because I didn't catch names. I saw, okay, what nationality are you from, and what's your fetish thing? What's your gimmick? I couldn't name any of the character names from Go Donner, but I can sure as heck name their nationalities. That show was so weird.
Yeah.
Anyways, but what's not weird is... Actually, I take that back. What is very weird is Reiko's fetish in this, which we're not fetish shaming or anything. Not at all. It's just not something that I think many of us have seen before. Getting turned on by the rev of a BMO motorcycle and getting turned on by a guy who can outrace you is quite interesting.
On a motorbike. Not a motorbike, but a mountain bike.
That's it. Not even that. On a grabs the Porsche, whips himself onto the power lines, beats her, jumps off a ledge. We think he's gonna make it. We think he's gonna make that jump, and then he doesn't, and we think he's dead.
I just gotta say, that mountain bike has got some very strong suspension on it.
No kidding. But, so how do you think Laura did as Reiko? Because this is actually the one I'm the most curious about hearing. Amon, what do you think? Putting the thoughts together.
She is so mean. She takes such delight in just hassling this guy. You moron. Of course I like my bike better than you. Or any man. I find her very entertaining, partially because she just I don't, they go for it. This feels like the most shameless episode. Like, I know Golden Boy is already very shameless in general. That's part of its DNA.
Mm-hmm.
But that this one feels, it's like, no, let's really go for it. let's just make something that cannot be shown on television without a just chunk of it just not making any sense whatsoever.
Bare-breasted, riding that motorcycle, getting wanting to be drilled by Kentaro.
I feel like the Japanese censorship laws around depicting genitals feel like the only reason she is wearing any underwear at all. Like, if it weren't for that, she would be fully naked. Like,
that did stand out, didn't it? Like, yeah, she strips down except for the underwear, and we're like, you could go all the way, you know. But yeah, it feels like there's something.
I am dead certain that's the only reason she's not completely naked. It is.
It probably was in the manga, because it's my understanding, because I haven't read the manga, but what I understand about it is that it got more and more pornographic as it went along.
That is both my understanding, and I imagine part of the reason why it has not gotten a Western release at any point.
So oddly enough, this OVA is actually the wholesome version of this story. Wrap your head around that.
For extremely specific values of wholesome. I just think she's a lot of fun. Like, she is clearly having a blast playing this, like, really just, like, big vulgar character. Even down to, like, the last bit where, like, you see that Kentaro, against all odds, has not died. And she just, like, starts running. She, like, just starts chasing after him. It's like, make me a woman, Kentaro. And it's like, this. I was rewatching bits of some of the episodes during my lunch break on my phone just to kind of remind me of this before we recorded. I have my headphones on, but I definitely had a moment of like,
no.
I'm pretty sure my headphones can't reach a volume where people can hear what I'm listening to. And I really hope that's true right now.
Thank God for that.
Yeah.
We want to keep you employed.
She's a hoot.
And she's quite the moaner too.
I don't know enough. I don't know much about Laura, but I feel part of me does wonder, was she part of, it's like, all right, look, Matt just like, it's like, all right, look, I'm gonna be very upfront with you. This is what's gonna be required of the character. If this crosses a line, that's okay. Like, if this is too much, that's okay. And Laura's like, I can do this. This is fine. Yeah.
So, Hardy, similar reactions to Laura's take on the character.
She definitely had the most fun out of all of them, that's for sure. The one complaint that I might have is that she kind of makes Reiko sound a little bit too old.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the only real thing. And because Reiko doesn't really speak very much during the first half of the episode at all. She's very quiet and polite and ladylike. When she revs up, though, she she definitely has a fun time. So yeah, her dialogue near the end. Well, I can't really say it out loud for very certain reasons, but
no.
She definitely had the most fun out of pretty much anyone on this dub. So, kudos to her.
See, you said that she sounded old, that she made the character sound a little bit older. And I was having a hard time trying to figure out how to describe the way she speaks, because all the actresses who'd been seen before this, they had their own voice that I could kind of identify. I don't really know what to identify her regular speaking voice as. The closest thing I could think of is that when she's speaking in her, not her reserved kimono conservative household voice, but her like, this is who I really am voice, it almost had a Russian flair to it, and I don't think that's an accurate way to describe it. But the only thing I could think of to describe the way she sounds out her vowels and the way that, you know, she just sounds compared to everyone else is, it's got almost an exotic Eastern European flair to it.
See, I didn't hear Russian. I did hear a little bit of British, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like still something not quite American about the delivery.
Yeah, because I noticed the same thing in her performance as Godanner. It sort of has this darling,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, in remembering Go Donner now, I'm like, it's like more maternal in that particular show.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, in this one, which was recorded years before Go Donner came out, it's definitely got a little something to it that plays up the horny side of things. Which again, not knocking at all. Absolutely, you go, girl. You get that motorcycle.
Darling, you couldn't nearly compare to my BMO baby.
She says this, I take a shot every time she says the word BMO baby.
Yeah.
But, I mean, what can you expect from the assistant director of Ninja Scroll, which is the guy who directed this episode? It's interesting because the guy who directed this, Kenji Takamura, didn't really have as many credits to his name. He didn't really become, like, a staple in the animation industry like some of the other ones that we talked about. But,
I have to ask you, Ninja Scroll the movie or Ninja Scroll the series?
Ninja Scroll the movie.
Okay, good.
Yeah, not the full director, an assistant director on that one.
Okay.
So, which is also a movie that is also something you shouldn't show your children.
Not unless they're at least 13 or something, because then it's cool.
Well, even then, it's you gotta the right kind of 13-year-old.
It's like, okay, he's like, you're 30. He's like, okay, now don't you watch that RoboCop VHS? Wink, wink.
Oh, I can see it now. It's okay. So your bar mitzvah. All right, we've done the dance. You've you've said thing at temple. Now you've got one last part to become a real man, and you pull off of the shelf this glowing disc that is just the Ninja Scroll DVD. And you say, "Come back to me in 90 minutes."
Father, I am now a man. I have seen the Ninja Scroll DVD.
Yeah. That movie will never die. We need to add that to the to-watch list as well.
Mm-hmm. Get on that, Almon.
Okay.
Actually, speaking of I'm glad we talked about animation here, because our final girl we're going to talk about is an animator herself. Because, yes, in the final episode of the OVA, this series decides to become full animation runner Kurumi, and just talks about how hell-inducing it is to make a cartoon, which I'm sure was not self-referential to the production of this OVA at all. At all.
What? The guy who shows up is just a stand-in for the guy who makes the actual Golden Boy manga? No, that can't be true.
No. The fact that the names are the same is just a coincidence. The fact they look identical, they just happen to... That's just how all mangaka look, don't you know? But yeah, this final episode is going to be interesting to talk about, because although the main girl of Chie is is the one who you think we'd be focusing on, the whole episode is littered with lots of people on the animation staff who I think also bear mentioning, but we'll keep it focused in on just the main girl. I believe she's not an inker. She is a full-on animation
She's a painter.
Cleaner. She's a what?
She's a painter, I think.
She was doing a couple of different things, but she was definitely helping with, cleaning up the final animation for production. Because there are a lot of roles in traditional hand-drawn animation, especially for 90s television production. But Chi is voiced by Yvonne Aguirre, and I may be mispronouncing the last name. I apologize. And it's hard.
I'm gonna go out on the rim and say Aguirre.
Here,
Aguirre. I don't know if that's Spanish or what. Aguirre.
I only know double R's in Spanish names. That's the only way that I know how to pronounce it. But I can't roll them.
Yvonne Aguirre.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess.
And yes, you all people listening can condemn me for not being able to pronounce it properly, but unfortunately for me, Yvonne has not had very many credited roles. And I do mean not very many, because Chie is the only lead role that you could say that she's had before. She's had background roles before. She was in shows like Chrono Crusade. She was in the Dirty Pair Flash OVA. She was even in Evangelion, not as like a character you would know, but as like some background characters, just filling in the Walla. So yeah, this will be probably the only time that we get to talk about Yvonne at all on this podcast. And I'll just start off by saying that because she is the least dynamic of all the girls we've talked about, and because she's surrounded by lots of other characters, Yvonne's performance is probably the most basic and normal of them all. That's just the only way I can think to say it. It's just the most normal.
I'd have to be a little bit meaner and say it's the weakest of the 6 girls, and probably of the entire dub. It's not her fault as an actress, but I also is because Chie is sort of kind of a nothing character. She's just kind of there to be sort of the pseudo focus, whereas the main focus of the episode is the anime itself that they're trying to create. She's just kind of there. But I don't think I think of the 6 female lead performances, she is by far the weakest. And that comes across as harsh, but I have to be honest with it.
Well, okay,
she leaves very, very, almost little impact.
Okay, so you're being a little mean on it. Amon, would you like to be a little mean too?
I won't be mean, but I do. I think Chie suffers from the same issue that Noriko does, where she is not as loud a character, and also like Noriko at least gets kind of like a nice, dramatic for Golden Boy episode for her to be along. Meanwhile, I think Chie feels like the least central of kind of the main girls. I feel like she is kind of on par with the other no-name animators that are in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
I think Yvonne's okay, but I think she is of the 6 female leads we're talking about. I think she by far gets the least to do.
Yeah,
I mean, in the episode itself, the most entertaining characters were the bitchy producer voiced by Amanda Wen Lee, and the guy voiced by Andy McGavin, who loves his boobs. So
yeah.
Oh, I love the I do love those guys, but I also love the really big guy who Kentaro cleans up his desk and then he gets beat up for, because he's got I don't know who voices him. I don't know which actor it is, but I feel like he's trying to be like Tony J. He's like giving it his best, Shere Khan,
British
Superman's
accent,
grandpa, Judge Frollo kind of voice to it.
Not part of the dub, but can we take a minute to admire that absolutely horrifying photo of an animator's desk that is definitely the desk of someone who worked on this show?
Not props, not made up for the episode, but just give me a camera. I just want to see your workspace. Okay, thank you.
How much you want to bet they argued over whose desk was the most gross and would be the best to put in the show?
I get the feeling that there may have actually been a contest of pride, like, no, my desk is dirtier. No, mine is dirtier. No, put mine in the episode.
One of them sneaks in like his half-eaten lunch so it'll look worse.
Yeah. I was wrong. It wasn't Andy McGavin was the boob guy. It was Charlie Campbell, which makes sense considering his prison school performance later, decades later.
I must bury my treasures. That was a fun show too. But yeah, we're not trying to bash on Yvonne's performance, because, like, to her credit, the writing on this, like what was actually required, is exactly what she delivered. It's not a wooden performance. It's not someone who doesn't know how to act, and it's definitely a cute voice, which is fitting for the character, because like Noriko in episode 3, it's supposed to be a nice girl. It's not supposed to be a horny or out of control boss girl. So it's just as good as we're gonna get, and that was the last episode, so she gets no further development after that.
And she's the only girl who doesn't chase after Kentaro at the end. So
yeah,
speaking of, how do you fit 3 people in a Lamborghini Diablo? Those things are tiny.
Through the magic of animation.
There are so many things you can do in animation you can't do in live action. And so that wraps up our main girls, which I think that's basically the episode. So I guess we move on to final thoughts, because I don't think we forgot to talk about anybody else, unless you guys can think of someone I forgot to mention in the Golden Boy episode.
There's a scribble at the bottom of my notes. Hardy, say what you're going to sing. Let's see if I can make it out.
Well, I think there's one small role we forgot.
All right,
the titular Golden Boy himself.
Is he really that important, though? Like, I don't know if anyone listening really, like, noticed he was even there.
Mm-hmm. No, he had his head stuck in the toilet the entire time.
That's the problem.
Yes.
But you know what? For completion's sake, because his name is on the tin, let's talk about Golden Boy. Let's talk about Kentaro Oe, the main character who just wants to study and has an incredible fascination with the female anatomy. I'm sure we're gonna have a lot of conflicting thoughts about this performance, so let's just dive into it. Let's jump into the deep end of the pool. Kentaro in the English dub is voiced by Doug Smith, and everyone out there absolutely knows who Doug Smith is because, well, I mean, if you've seen any packaging of any ADV releases, then you've seen his handiwork, because the predominant thing he's known for is being like a behind-the-scenes guy at ADV films. Like, if you look at his credits, it's a lot of producer or marketing and stuff like that. Not really so much on the acting side of things. But I should probably mention at least a couple of things that he's voiced in before. Give me 1 second while this loads.
I can tell you of one role that he was in.
Which one are you thinking
He had exactly one line in Gunsmith Cats, and it's from when the moment where Raleigh picks up the shotgun and then shoots over the rails and hits one guy, and then the other guy goes, "Oh, I'm out of here!"
It was that distinct.
That was Doug Smith's one role in that entire OVA.
I mean, that fits. That for an over-the-top reaction, that fits Doug's performance. And that's kind of indicative of his acting credits as well, because aside from this show and the Dragon Knight OVA, where he played the lead of Takeru, he doesn't really have any other named roles to his name. He's got a lot of bit parts in things like Street Fighter 2, the TV, the Rune Explorers OVA, like Hardy said, the Gunsmith Cats OVA, lots of background parts here and there. So I'm going to just go on a limb and say that this is the only time that we're going to really talk about Doug Smith as a performer. And what a role to talk about. Oh my god. Hardy, you had thoughts when we were talking about this, like, just in chat. I want you to just go ahead and start out and saying, how does Doug handle this character?
I can't really say that this is a good performance.
You could.
Does it make me smile? Oh, yes, very much so. In ways, he kind of sounds like Big Ed from Ed, Edd and Eddy. It's like, he talks like this, and he wants to put his head in a toilet.
I don't know what impression it was going for, because it's not like an imitation of the Japanese. So I don't know what kind of Beavis and Butthead or Jim Carrey kind of performance he was going for there.
I mean, I feel like he's going for amalgamate. He's going for a voice that just indicates stupid.
Yeah, he even adds a little extra
with two O's.
He adds a little extra lift to everything. Yeah. So always study and be financial. Education is good for the body.
It's not quite an impression, but like there's a little bit of Beavis and Butthead. There's a little bit of Dumb and Dumber. Like there's a lot of like what how did we communicate idiocy in the 90s in this performance? And I think on purpose, because I feel like half the joke of there's a reason every episode they point out this man could have been a lawyer. Like he passed all the classes. He is nominally smart. He is shown in the episode to actually be relatively competent and insightful. He is also the dumbest motherfucker alive.
It's so like, yeah, we have to identify that, like, he's smart in how to accomplish things. He is dumb in his methods of interacting with others, it seems.
And he also thinks way too often with his downstairs.
She's got her hand.
Aggressively horny man.
She's got her hand on my hand. Oh, how I wish that it was my you-know-what. Yeah, there's all sorts of lines in here that, like, he gets all the best lines. Like, oh, well, the girls get some great lines, but when I was talking about how they added lots of euphemisms and they filled in quiet scenes with just offhand comments, most of them go to Kentaro. And, you know, we're trying to imitate the way he sounds, but it's really all over the place. There are goofy, stupid-sounding parts, But then there's parts where he has to be serious sounding, especially like when his face gets all serious faced. But even in those scenes where it's supposed to be serious, he's still got that like goofy affectation to him to let you know that it's still the same character. Like he hasn't turned into what's that alter ego that Urkel turned into in Family Matters?
Stefan Arkell.
There you go. He does not become Stefan. He is still Kentaro, even when he is really trying very hard.
Yeah. No, I can say this. If listening it back on, and I'll probably go more into this on Final Thoughts. Listening back on this dub in the year 2021, 15 years roughly after it was first recorded, was it a good performance? Probably not. Would I have preferred it any other way? Absolutely not. I mean, Doug might not be that great of an actor, but good lord, did he bring this so much life and energy to this performance. It's all I can say is legend. Like, you dropped this crown.
Yeah, if you're going to be remembered for one performance in the anime voiceover sphere, you may as well have a lot of fun with it.
I'm in full agreement. Like there is stuff in here which on a technical level I feel like could be better performed, better delivered, etc. But like it's like, no, this feels so right. This is how Kentaro should sound. I almost feel like a more professional performance would be worse in a weird way.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like this captures the character who is such a messy weirdo in his own right. Like again, it's not technically great, but has lots of personality. I feel like part of because clearly like Doug would get, judging by his resume, he would get pulled into the voice booth when they needed actors, but that was not his day job.
Mm-hmm.
And it very much felt like, no, Matt was like, Doug would be great at this. Hey, Doug, you want to be a lead in something? I don't know, what is it? You played just a real horny jackass. That sounds fun. I'll do that.
That's everyone's dream. Like, can you really tell me that you wouldn't wish that your job just pulled you aside and said, all right, I know that this is your normal job, but we really need you to be really stupid and goofy and horny.
Okay.
Like he very sincerely commits to doing Kentaro justice, and I think for the flaws in his performance, I think that shines through, and I feel like the flaws are there, but they don't matter.
They really do.
Like if you're not just off put by Golden Boy in general, I don't see a reason why you would like this show and also have huge issues with his performance. Like anyone who's going to enjoy this particular kind of like crass nonsense does not seem like they're going to be, well, I thought the performance of the lead just could have used a few more takes here and there.
It's unfortunate because like I have seen people use this performance as an example of like, this is why all dubs suck, because all dubs sound like this. It's like you're just cherry picking an example of like a show that isn't really like most anime in general.
And then they immediately follow up with the only good dub is the Ghost Stories dub.
Unfortunately.
Which, again, that's its own other issue for another episode.
Yeah.
And I feel just like the zero irony that like this is like the same voice acting pool, guys. It's been a while since I looked, but I'm pretty sure if this doesn't share cast and crew, this is not that far removed. People like quit kidding yourself.
It's not a Stephen Foster performance, but I feel like the DNA was definitely set in, like you were saying, ADV liked to be a little goofier. They're just a bunch of nerds that got lucky, and so they were go hard or go home when it came to the funnier dubs.
Absolutely. Like, I think they very much saw, like, they understood the comedic potential that's in here, like, just both innate in the show and where they can punch it up a little bit in ways that make sense. Mm-hmm. And I think they went for it, and I think the dub benefits for that. Like, I don't know if I'd want I don't know if I want a more trimmed down Golden Boy Doug. I feel like that misses the point.
It really is. It's not the kind of thing where I would encourage many other people to do, and that's my only hesitation in praising Doug's performance, is that I don't want to encourage other studios to take a similar approach. Definitely not nowadays.
I'm not sure they could get away with this nowadays, frankly.
You don't think so? Well, no,
I put it this way, in the sense of like anime is enough of an international thing that even if I could see them being like, not like you have to re-record it, but like this is too much. You need to rein it in a little.
Dial it back, yeah.
Yeah, just this feels like the kind of thing where they wouldn't hate it, but it's like you're at 10 and you need to crank it down to like an 8 or a 7.
So I'm gonna assume that you did not watch Prison School, right, Amon?
If we're not covering it for the show, I rarely have time to watch anime anymore. So no, I did not watch Prison School.
Put it on the backlog.
Well, no, yes, do that. But the reason I bring it up is because there is a character played by Sony Straight in that show where the dub voice is. How did you describe it, Hardy? It's like if Meatwad from Aqua Teen Hunger Force was a big-faced teenage boy.
Like a Buddha.
Yeah, it's like, she talks like this all the time. Which was not the voice in the Japanese. So there are instances still where we kind of gagify our voice acting for the sake of comedy.
No, I think that can still happen. I don't think they'd allow a performance as sloppy as this. That's the difference, I think.
Okay, I gotcha.
Because, like, Sonny Straight's I don't want to disparage Doug. I think he turns in a wonderful performance here. I wouldn't change a thing. But, like,
right.
Sonny's a professional. He's been this is his actual job.
That's what's great about...
Mm-hmm.
That's what's great about this time period, is that you could get unorthodox performances from people who were not classically trained actors, and you could get memorable performances, one-off memorable performances like this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I don't even know if like our discussion here is going to be is it going to convince anyone otherwise? Because I think you hit the nail on the head, Amon, when you said if you're not turned off by Kentaro in general, then the voice probably isn't going to sway your opinion either.
Mm-mm.
So that, I think, is a good segue into leading into actual final thoughts on this show. This crazy, wild ride that Jacob Wilson forced us... Well, not forced. We volunteered for this willingly, because this was a fun ride. So I'm going to just let everyone go around the table here and say, what did you think of the overall dub in the show? Starting with Spaceman Hardy.
It is very much a product of its time. It might be a very, very more difficult sell to someone who's just recently starting out at anime. Like if their experience with anime is like My Hero Academia and a few episodes here and there of One Piece, you're probably not going to enjoy this because it is very much a time capsule. You have to be in the mindset to say, hey, you know what? I want to look into anime's seedy past. I want to watch something a bit older, a bit more obscure, maybe a bit raunchier than what I'm used to. You have to be in the mindset, and you have to go into that mindset knowing that the dubs of yesteryear are not going to sound as polished as the dubs of today, but they have their own sort of innocence and wholesomeness to them that they are still very much worth watching. I was talking with you guys in the chat earlier. It's sort of like the small brain, big brain, galaxy brain situation. Whereas, small brain is, I hate old anime dubs, they suck. Medium brain is, okay, so they're not technically good, but I grew up on 90s anime dubs, so I have a fondness for them. Big brain is, listen here, man. I know these aren't the best written or acted dubs, but dang it, I would throw myself in front of a bus to defend them. And Galaxy Brain is, I love old anime dubs. They suck. And so if for anyone going into this new, you have to be in the mindset. You have to be in a retrospective mindset that, maybe if what you're used to is like modern anime, you might not have as much of enjoyment as this. You have to look through the fan service, of course. You have to look through the hokey acting and the 90s dialogue. If you're okay with that, if you're able to gel with that, you're going to have a really good time. Because I watched this again and I was in stitches, having watched it in over a decade. It's some good raunchy fun if you're into that.
Absolutely. And I pine for the days when OVA was not a extra episode of a TV show that just got packaged in with the manga. I miss that we had OVAs that were like, no, it's too cool for television.
Then again, we also ended up with Tripe like MD Geist, but
Hey,
you get what you take.
That's a classic to some people.
You can't win them all.
That's true. It was a bit of a crapshoot, but when you struck gold, you got Golden Boy.
Hey.
All right, Amon Duel. What did you take away from visiting the show for the very first time?
What wonderful trash. This is... I appreciate a show that knows... One of my beefs with, like, kind of nominally fan service shows is one of them kind of want to, like... They want to be fan service, they also want to be, like... Oh, we're so cute, and it, like, they want to dance around it. I appreciate the ones that just commit to, like, no, we are gross, sleazy trash. That is what we are. We know what we are, and we are okay with that. And I always appreciate that over kind of the stuff that kind of wants to have its cake and eat it, too.
Mm-hmm.
The show, like, it knows what it is. It goes for broke. It is very specific. Again, if you like, you can try the first episode. If you feel the urge to tap out at any point during that, like, tap out. It is not going to get any better than this, save, like, maybe episode 3 will be a little more palatable to you, and even then, it's not like that is not also weird and trashy in its own way.
Kentaro got
like,
a kiss.
Exactly. Exactly what I'm thinking of. But, like, it is, like, if there's anything remotely appealing about this to you, it is fun. I think this dub is a blast. It is very much it is the kind of dub you would want for this kind of show and a show of this vintage. This is delightful. I'm glad this has not been one of those old shows that, like, it came out in, like, the 90s and 2000s, and then the license lapsed, and it's like, yeah, everyone used to watch that one. No one's seen it, though. You haven't been able to legally get in this country for decades. Like, I'm glad that it's also back.
Every time it goes out of print, someone picks it up, because Discotek is actually the third licensor for it.
Yes.
Amazing.
Hardy, you have the Media Blasters home video release, right?
I had the Discotek one, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
because you showed me a picture of your box set, and the artwork is almost identical to the one that I have, which is the Media Blasters one.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, does that one come with any special features, anything at all?
No.
The original Japanese trailers, I think.
That's not a special feature.
It's pretty bare bones.
Yeah.
I have it too. There's not. I'd be shocked. From what I could. It looks like some premium edition somewhere had, like, an interview with the mangaka, but I think that might have been produced by that particular company, and it's not something that's just readily available for anyone to license.
Yeah, so let me read off what the special features are on the Media Blasters release. Oh, these are a treat.
Oh boy.
Special features: double disc set, 5.1 audio, nice.
Whoopee.
And I love this, image gallery.
Oh, wow.
Wow, they spent no expense.
I'm slightly disappointed that it did not list menu as a special feature, which I realized this almost certainly would have been released long after they stopped doing that, but would have fit.
It would have.
Especially if it's an interactive menu.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Both English and Japanese audio and interactive menus? Sign me up. Yeah,
it's almost like Aniplex listing English credits as a special feature. And it's not even a scroll, it's like one screen.
This took us forever in PowerPoint to put together. Give us some credit. But to wrap this all up, the final thoughts on this, I don't think you're going to see the premise and the artwork for the show and not know pretty much right away whether it's going to be for you. It's not going to shatter your preconceptions about, like, sexuality. It's not going to make you think differently of 90s OVAs, because it fits into quite a few of the stereotypes of tits in action that we'd come to expect. And God bless them for it, because we don't do that anymore. But the dub itself is the kind of thing where I don't want to praise it too much, just because I've said the mentality before that you should dub anything as if it was going to be someone else's favorite. Anything. So it should be taken respectfully. And so when you gagify it in some cases, which they do in some points here, it's like, I don't know if I encourage this today. But it's been around for a long time. It's a staple in many people's diet from when that came out or when they started getting into anime, and people did recommend something weird and out there like this that you're not going to find on television. For that, I absolutely endorse it. It's like Aman was saying, I don't think I'd want a refined Kentaro. I like it this way. As a one-off thing. If every dub sounded like this, then yes, I'd be annoyed. But for this one out there series that has both its funny and its heartwarming moments, I think this is the kind of dub that we deserved to get. So with those positive voices out of the way there, and if you've watched this and you think to yourself, all right, I'm in the mood for retro stuff, where can I watch this? Well, like Hardy was saying, it has been re-licensed from ADV to Media Blasters to Discotech. Yes, our fine folks at Discotech have the license to this, so they have it out on DVD and Blu-ray now for you to purchase. Or if you have a subscription to Crunchyroll, you can watch it there too. Yes, Golden Boy is up, all 6 episodes, uncensored for your enjoyment over on Crunchyroll. And that is why you should check it out as soon as you're done watching this episode. But not before... Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
I will note just for just in case people looking for. As far as I know, there is no Blu-ray. It sounds like I think Discotech looked into that at some point, and there's some sort of issue with the masters, kind of preventing like an HD version or something like that.
Okay, I apologize. When I hear
even the DVD has some really janky parts in the intros and stuff like that.
Yes. Also, if you watch it on Crunchyroll, you will find out they do not include the end credits for whatever reason. Mostly because it's just a scroll of text with the song playing over.
They include the song?
No, they don't have anything.
Wow, that's a miss.
It's just the episode. The episode just ends.
I'm sorry. I liked. I skipped the ending song after the first episode, but I wouldn't want to tell people not to listen to. What's that song called? Because it's one of those original songs that's sung by the cast. It's like Study Boy Study or something like that. I don't know. But the point is that, yes, you can check it out with or without the theme song. I guess that's up to you. Wrapping this up here, though, if you want to know where we are the Dub Talk Podcast, and you can follow us all over the internet with the handle of Dub Talk Podcast. We are on Twitter, we are on Instagram, we are using our Twitch channel a whole lot, so definitely check that out. We have our audio-only feeds over on Podbeam, Spotify, and Apple... How do you like the apples? And that is why we have to give a huge shout-out to everyone who listens to our episodes. Thank you guys so much. We would not be able to do this without you. And we especially would not be able to do this without our patrons, the fine folks who contribute a couple of dollars to get the episodes out early, get entered into the raffle to have their episodes featured, and are an amazing group that we do this for. Starting off with our $5 patrons, thank you to Sue Tweet, thank you Michelle Travis, thank you to Nico Robin, but with Yowie hands, thank you to Megan's mom and dad, and thank you to Victor Maybaroda. But let us give an even bigger round of applause to our $10 patrons, the ones who chip in a little bit extra and get our sincere gratitude for being part of this adventure. Those individuals are Crimson Echidna, thank you so much, man. Thank you to Carly Lesticow, keep being an amazing individual, and I hope you have a happy holidays. Thank you to Julia W. Thank you to Otaku Anthony, one-of-a-kind individual. Thank you to Jared Hawkins, also an amazing individual. Thank you to Marissa Lenti. Keep up the amazing work in the voice acting industry. And speaking of the voice acting industry, thank you immensely to our suggested patron for this episode, who is out there doing his own work in the voice acting world, Jacob Wilson. Check out Jacob's Twitter for all of the latest things he's been doing. And again, we would not have done this without you, Jacob, so thank you for forcing us, quote-unquote, to watch Golden Boy. Now, we're wrapping this up here. Hardy, what are you doing when you are not watching 90s OVAs?
Usually I'm lurking on Twitter if I'm not at work. You can find me on Twitter at Spaceman Hardy. What am I doing? I'm just retweeting a lot of fan art lately these days, but occasionally I'll do an occasional angry rant and post a few goat pictures of something or not. So just come by and say hi. Wash your hands, wear a mask, and keep it manly.
Yes, do that. Amon, what are you doing these days?
You can find me on Twitter as well at AmonDuelUS. Duel is 2 U's in it. I talk about movies and music and incessantly retweet Steely Dan memes that only I find funny. Because all of my followers follow me for my anime takes, not smooth jazz rock. They're lost, really, frankly.
I mean, if it makes you feel any better, as soon as I see any music takes of any kind, I immediately think, like, I gotta send this to Amon. So I'm not following you just for the anime takes.
That's sweet of you. And I also have a dusty old song. Yeah? Sorry,
yeah, speaking of music, we couldn't wrap this up without a dusty old song.
No, I had some slight trouble with this one because initially I was going to do Peaches by the punk band The Stranglers, and I thought, this is a little too mean for this show. It's a little too, like, leering and gleering. So I had said decided just to go for something so screamingly obvious. I tried to see if anyone had done an AMV of Golden Boy to this song, and I'm not sure if they have. Which there's maybe a segment in an AMV Hell segment, I don't know, which I'd be surprised if they didn't. A music critic I like talked about how he has a fondness for songs that have kind of become just like shorthand to the point where like they aren't kind of useful songs anymore. They mean a thing.
Oh, I think I know who you're talking about.
And in the context of that, there's really only one song that can go for this.
Does it have 2 words to it?
Yes, it does.
Is it by a couple of Swiss people?
Absolutely.
Is it have almost no lyrics and is featured in more than one 80s teen movie?
I think he knows what it is, folks. I think he knows that
Oh, yeah.
It is Oh Yeah by Yellow, which is the sound of someone leering over their sunglasses at an attractive person.
I actually find that really funny you should say that, because you know that song has been in an actual anime before?
Really? Which?
Yeah.
Which one?
It was in the original manga UK dub for Space Adventure Cobra, where Yellow did the entire soundtrack.
What?
It is a dub that has been lost to time, but it's generally considered to be actually the superior of the 2 dubs for that film.
I was gonna say,
yeah,
I saw the streaming version of that, and I don't remember that.
Yeah. Now, the one that you get on the Blu-ray and DVD and Ultra 4K the release is the streamlined dub. But
which is a streamlined dub.
Yes, we'll have to cover that eventually too, because it's one of the
Okay.
few things that was ever dubbed for Space Adventure Cobra. But yeah, no, the Mega UK release got a completely different OST done by Yellow.
That makes sense.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
I'm glad you also mentioned that song because my daughter Ruby, who is 4 years old, really likes that song. I was watching the music video for it, and on my phone, just randomly listening to it, and she said, "That's a scary song, but I like it." And so anytime that she says, "Can I listen to the scary song?" That's what she wants. She wants to hear "Oh Yeah" by Yellow.
Look,
so I got oh god.
Like, I can believe that. I can remember distinctly the first time I saw Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which was my introduction to that song, and even the time it's like, this song really stands out compared to all the other music in this movie. What is this?
It's a lot of bass. And of course, got to reference Sunny in Philadelphia. Day bow bow.
Yeah.
Day bow bow. We got way off topic there.
Yes.
But what do I do? To wrap this up, my name is Noah Clue, and you can follow me on Twitter at Noah Clue, where I post pictures of my aforementioned children, puppy, and the things I'm baking, because I'm in the middle of the holiday baking season right now. By the time you listen to this, I will probably be done frosting 250 sugar cookies, making 250 chocolate-covered peanut butter balls, and probably trying to hide them so that no one else in the house nibbles them before I can share them with people. I think we've studied ourselves into the final exam, so may you all be free. Go forth and study and live a full, eventful life.
Rock over Boston, rock on Chicago.
Keep it manly.
Aloha and otaku-an, my fabulous studiers.
袖まくりたい好きだけ鉢巻き締めて頑張って楽しいから
Alright, you ready, Hardy?
No. My Audacity... Oh, okay. It kicked back in again. Okay, I'm ready.
Oh, okay. Alright. Hello?
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 Who's hosting?
I don't know who's hosting. I thought you were hosting.
No, I thought you were hosting. Oh, okay. All right. Oh. All right,
What?
we'll make this work. Okay. No, I'm sorry. I was misinformed. Because you asked me in on the episode. I thought that you were in charge of it.
What? I thought Amon was in charge of it.
I thought you were in charge of it.
Who, me?
You're listed as host on that spreadsheet we don't look at.
What?